So the GED language arts test and the HiSET writing test is actually a little bit unique. You need to have really good grammar skills, but you also need to make sure that you can analyze an essay and help figure out basically how the essay should be best written. So in this video, I'm really going to go through and help you rock that exam for when it's time for you to take it. Welcome to Purely Persistent. I'm Michelle. Now, before we get started in the actual test, I want to share with you just a couple of tips while you're watching the video and also while you're taking the test. Okay, so while you're watching the video, you need to maybe pause the video at certain points and practice with me. Okay, the more you practice these questions, the better you're going to do. Okay, and if you practice them before me, then you'll see if you got the right answer or not, right? Another thing, you've got to stay until the end, okay? If you are truly committed to your future self and for passing this test, you will stay until the end of this video. I know it's a long video, but you've got to be committed to really studying and practicing this whole video with me. And you'll want to make sure that you check out some other videos. This is actually my second writing video like this, so check out my other one. And then I actually have series for every single test that's on the GED or the HiSET test. Okay, so here we are for our first question set. So we're going to start off by just kind of surveying it to see what is going on. Okay, so I like to start by reading what's in bold and then reading just a little bit of each paragraph. Okay, after a school trip, students each chose a personal highlight from their visit to write about for a newspaper feature. Read through the draft of the student's account, then go to the questions. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, National Archives. On our class trip to the U.S. capital city, Washington, D.C., and then paragraph 2, the National Archives is located. When my turn finally came to view these documents, on the day we visited the archives, to ensure that the documents continue during our trip, we saw the nation's history reflected. Okay, so it's basically a field trip to the National Archives, right? Okay, so I'm looking here at number 1, which is underlined right over here. So we have to decide, first of all, is the word capital capitalized? Okay, now, no, it's not. Okay, so number 1 here is leave it as it is. So A is not the answer and D is not the answer because capital is just a common noun and it should be lowercase. So now we need to decide if there should be a comma. See, notice here how there's a comma there and a comma there, but right above it in B, there's no commas, okay? So this helps to read the actual sentence. So it says, on our class trip to the U.S. Capitol, Washington, D.C., teachers insisted on taking us to the National Archives. Okay, so this is actually a positive, okay? And the commas are put before and after Washington, D.C., basically to offset it and say, okay, this is, just in case you didn't know, this is the capital, okay? We could just say our trip to the U.S. Capitol, the teachers insisted on taking us to the archives, but it's like, oh, the capital is Washington, D.C., in case you didn't know. Okay, so the answer here is C. Okay, number 2 here, we are looking down here a little bit, and I like to read the full sentence, or at least most of the sentence, to really help me figure it out, okay? So here it says, now admitting at first that I did not want to go, okay, B is, now I have to admit that at first I did not want to go. C, at first admitting that I did not want to go. D, first I admitted that I didn't want to go. Okay, so these are all kind of wordy, and this is a really good example of reading them out loud, okay? Which one sounds the best, okay? And so right now, it's actually a sentence fragment, okay? And nowhere in that first part of the sentence does it really have a subject, okay? So the answer is actually B, because the other ones do not correct that fragment. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the video that sometimes shorter answers are going to be the answer. And notice here, this one is actually the longest. So that is not a good example of choose the shorter one. But I would say when in doubt, choose the shorter one. But if you followed that technique, you'd get this one wrong. Okay, so number 3, we're looking at stretching, stretched, it stretched, okay? So here we have, starting right up here, the National Archives is located near what is known as the National Mall, a long parkway stretching westward from the Capitol building. Okay, so stretching means that it's happening right now, right? It's present tense. So let me ask you, is the National Mall stretching from the Capitol building all the way to the end, the Lincoln Memorial? Yes, it is. Right now, it's a piece of grass that's going the entire length, right? So B is not it, because that's saying it's stretched in the past, right? And C, let's just read C so we can hear it. So it says, a long parkway, it stretches from the Capitol building. Well, why does it have the word it? Like, that's kind of awkward. And we have D, which is stretched. So we have a long parkway, which is stretched westward from the Capitol building. So A is actually the answer, stretching. That is a good example of choose the shorter one, right? Instead of saying which is stretched, here we just have stretching, nice and easy, short word. Okay, number 4 here. Like I said, I like to read the entire sentence, so I have to kind of go back up all the way up here to before. So before me were the handwritten principles that have allowed our country to operate according to law and undergoing change peacefully for 200 years. So what we're looking at is the word undergoing. Okay, so notice here how it says and. So this means that somewhere in that sentence, if we go a little bit before, we have the word operate. So notice here it says to operate. Okay, so we want to make it so this sentence is parallel. Okay, that's a fancy term that you don't really need to know, but parallel is we want the verbs to be similar. If it says to operate, then we need to say to undergo. Okay, you want to make sure that it's very consistent. So when you're writing your essay and you have a little list or something, make sure that it's consistent like that. So the answer is B. Which of these words, if any, is misspelled? So actually, we don't even need, in this case here, we don't need to look back. We don't even need to look at any of that, okay? All we need to do is look at the words that are right here. So we have none, extravagantly, embellished, or signatures. So this is the type of thing that you're just going to have to know it. There's nothing that you can really do to prepare. Either you've got the spelling words down or you don't. When in doubt, choose C. I actually have a multiple choice video that you might consider watching. I'll put a link to it up above, down below. So there's one word in here that is misspelled, and that is signatures. This is signatures, and it's pronounced signatures. This I right here, right there, should be an A, not an I. Signatures, not signatures, okay? One by one, people passed in front of them and paused looking. Okay, so here what we want to do is we want to make sure it says passed. So we want to make sure passed and we have paused. So we have passed and paused. So now what we have to do is we have to decide sort of, is it paused looking or is it paused to look? Okay, and so we really just want to sort of maintain this past tense, and It's going to be paused to look. Okay, because if you say paused looking, you kind of want more in that sentence, right? And this is just paused to look. Number 7 here. To protect the documents further, the lights in the exhibition hall are kept low. Okay, B, to protect the documents, the lights in the expedition hall. My gosh, Michelle, say the words. C, to protect the documents further, the lights in the oh geez, I just needed to stop saying that word. Exhibition. I can say the word exhibition. Okay, D, to increasingly protect the documents. Okay, the answer here, I'm not even going to really go through this one because I can't say the word. The answer is A. Okay, so it really just expresses how the documents are protected to a greater extent. It's short, it's concise, and it has some nice words. Okay, so to protect the documents further, the lights in the exhibition hall. Do you guys ever get tongue-tied? I am so tongue-tied on this one, so let's just move on. Okay, so looking here, we need to decide, are we going to keep going with this sentence, or are we going to put something after building? Okay, so let's take a look here. So we want to start here with each night. Each night, the cases are lowered into a fireproof and shockproof vault beneath the building. In case of an emergency, they can be lowered instantly. You know what we've got going on here, guys? A run-on sentence. So if you didn't catch that, you might consider watching my run-on sentence video. I'll post it up there. Okay, so we can't have two sentences with a comma separating them. Okay, that would be called a comma splice. Okay, but let's take a look at it. What can we do? So B actually does a really good job separating the two sentences with just a period. C just keeps it going without a comma or anything. It just keeps it going. D, so a semicolon. I actually have a video on semicolons. D, semicolons work, however, you can't have the word and next to a semicolon. Okay, so all of them are run-on sentences except for B. B corrects that run-on. Okay, number 9 here. Much to my surprise, all of the places we visited, the archives turned out to be my most favorite. Okay, so we have most favorite. B is very favorite of them all, right? That's kind of wordy, isn't it? C, favorite above all others. And D is favorite. Okay, so the word favorite, you just choose, I mean, you don't say most favorite, right? If you have a favorite means one. Okay, you don't have like, you know, what's your most favorite ice cream? You don't say most favorite. You just say, what is your favorite ice cream? You guys have to choose one. Some words use most or more or that sort of thing, but favorite is just a word all by itself, and we don't need anything else to go with it. So the answer is just D. Okay, so for this one, we want to take a look at the entire draft, the entire essay that was written, and we need to decide where paragraph 3 should be placed. So let's kind of just survey it again. We have a general gist of what's going on from surveying it at the beginning and then also from answering all the questions before. But let's kind of review it, okay? So we've got sentence or paragraph 1 is after our class trip to the U.S. capital. Paragraph 2 is saying where the National Archives are located. Paragraph 3, so my turn to view the historical documents. Paragraph 4, on the day we visited, there were a long line of people. So it kind of sounds like when my turn came, it's after the long line of people, right? And then 5 is talking all about how it's protected, right? So really, paragraph 3 works really well underneath paragraph 4, because all these people, they're pausing to look, right? No one hurried by. And then finally, it was my turn. When my turn came up, here's what I did, okay? So the answer here is after paragraph 4. We're moving on to another set here. And guys, I love when you're taking a test and you actually learn something from the random information that you're reading. So here in this video, not only are you learning to do well on the writing test, you're also learning, look, tips for a successful job interview. So you're welcome for double dipping and helping you learn 2 things in one. Okay, so let's take a look. A career counselor was preparing an information sheet about job interviews. Okay, so we've got tips for a successful job interview. In the days preceding the interview, step 1, research the employer. Step 2, know what to say. And looks like we've got some questions here. What would you like to tell me about yourself? Why do you want to work here? Tell me about a time you made a mistake. Why should we hire you? Do you have any questions for me? The next part, step 3, practice being interviewed. And step 4, look sharp, plan ahead, be confident, and expect surprises. Okay, so looking here at number 11, so I'm actually going to start here with use. Use the company's website as well as other resources to gather information about its products, services, who the staff is, and accomplishments. Guys, remember a couple questions ago, and I talked about parallel structure. You want to make sure that things are consistent, right? We talked about the verbs. So in this case, we have nouns, and we want to make sure that it's really consistent. So we have products, services, accomplishments, and who the staff is, right? Is there a way we can simplify who the staff is? Yes, we can just say staff. So look at it like this. We have products, services, staff, and accomplishments. See how that flows together so much more nicely than who the staff is? So keep this in mind as you're writing, okay? Use this as a trick to help you with your writing when you have lists, things that are in a row. Okay, number 12. So we have a transition, and in your writing, make sure you have transitions. Okay, so we have nonetheless. So we need to decide, should it be nonetheless for that reason? So why not, or instead? Okay, now, because it's a transition, I want to see what's going on in the sentence before and that sentence, and it will really help me decide how I should approach it. So, during interviews, applicants should describe themselves in ways that best shows how well they fit the position. Nonetheless, be ready to provide information in the following areas. So, nonetheless, kind of switches things over a little bit, right? And this is really actually just sort of keeping the same flow that we have already, okay? So I wouldn't keep nonetheless, right? Look at B though, for that reason. So describe themselves in ways that show best how well they fit the position. For that reason, be ready to provide information. So that's saying, here's this sentence, and here's a little bit more information, right? So that's a really strong transition in this scenario. Okay, C, so why not, right? That's a little informal. They're trying to go for a formal tone in this essay. So, and D is kind of switching things up by saying instead, right? Instead of coffee, you should drink tea, right? No, we're not, we're adding to it. We're not saying do this instead, right? So the answer is B. We made it halfway through and you rock. You are awesome. Give this video a thumbs up and it will show me that you are still here and you're committed. Okay, so for this one here, we have, what do we use? A comma, a semicolon, a colon, or a comma. Looks like A is actually a comma with a capital E, and D is just a comma. So let's take a look at nonetheless, or as we just said, for that reason, be ready to provide information in the following areas: education and training, any former jobs, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so A is not the answer, guys. We're not starting a whole new sentence. So education, and education is just a common noun. It's not formal. So we don't need to capitalize education. So we have to decide B, C, or D. Okay, this is not a time to use a semicolon. Okay, you'll notice actually throughout this, we have lots of semicolons. This is a list that has a lot of words in the middle, so we use semicolons between each portion of the list. So this is not a time to use a semicolon. C, a colon, just the two little dots, that actually is a perfect time to use it, right? It's setting us up with, I'm about to provide you with a list. And that's a really good example of when to use a colon. But let's look at D. A comma? No. There are definitely times to use a comma, and before starting a list is not one of those times. So the answer is C. Okay, so I've got things switched over a little bit so that my picture wouldn't be in the way too much. So we've got here, what would you like to tell me about yourself? Applicants can talk about qualities, especially talents and prior experiences, that make them a particularly good fit for the job. Did you notice as I was reading, I paused slightly when right after I said the word qualities? So applicants can talk about qualities, especially talents and prior experiences. So sometimes, not all the time, you want to learn your comma rules, but in this case, because I paused, that's a really good hint of maybe there will be a comma there, and there actually is a comma right after qualities, so that gets rid of A, and it also gets rid of D. So let's take a look at what the differences between B and C are. So we have qualities, especially talents and prior experiences, that, so there's the comma before the that, and notice how C does not have the comma. So what we've got here is especially talents and prior experiences, that isn't a positive, okay? And so we actually put a comma before that little phrase and after that little phrase to just offset it from the rest of the sentence. So the word that is actually referring to qualities. So we could actually just sort of erase all of this and the sentence should still make sense, right? Let's take a look. Applicants can talk about qualities that make them a particularly good fit for the job. So see, you can get rid of that part. And so that is a clue that it's in a positive. And before in a positive, we need a comma. And at the end, we also need a comma. So the answer is B. Okay, so here it says, choose the best way to combine the indicated sentences. So honestly, I don't even need to read this, okay? So let's read it. Again, if you have to read it out loud, you can. We want things that are precise and logical in combining our two sentences together. So, emphasizing the lesson, talk about acting differently in later situations. Talk about how to act differently in later situations and emphasize the lesson. A little wordy. With the lesson being emphasized, talk in later situations about acting differently. Again, guys, this is a really good example of reading these out loud on which ones make better sense. D, talk about how to act differently in later situations with the emphasized lesson. Okay, so A is the one that makes the most logical sense. It's much more precise than the other ones. And oh my gosh, you guys, look. it's slightly shorter. And like I told you, sometimes that helps because that means it's a little bit more precise and a little more focused. So A is the answer. Choose the best way to express the information in the indicated sentence is. Okay, so again, I don't need to read all of this. I'll just go straight to the question. Ask for more information about the job, such as the hours or pay, and for clarification of anything discussed in the job interview. That flows nicely. B, ask for more information about the job, hours, or job pay, and that clarifies anything discussed during the interview. Okay, so that one, yes, it's shorter, but oh no, it's not flowing as well. It's a little tad wordy. C, ask for more information about the job's hours or pay, and it's clarifying anything discussed. And it's clarifying what? No. Okay, D, ask for more information about the job, such as hours, pay, and to clarify. Notice here how ask for more information and for clarification, right? For information and for clarification. This is the parallel structure, again, that we are looking for. Whereas this one is saying clarifying for more information and clarify. It's not consistent. We've got to be consistent. So A is the answer. So here we've got, at the conclusion of the role playing, ask that friend of yours to tell you what he or she really, really thought. Guys, do you think that they would ever say in an essay, really, really? No, they wouldn't. Okay, so ask to hear something that could help. A little informal. Ask for constructive feedback. Ooh, look at that nice word, constructive feedback, right? That really simplifies everything and makes it nice and concise. That's one reason why it's important. If you can implement bigger words to make things more concise, it really helps with your writing. Or ask if it went okay, right? Not very formal. So B and D are definitely not formal, and neither is A. So the answer is D. Ask for constructive feedback. Okay, so here we've got allowing, looks like to allow, allows, or allow. Okay, so we've got, we'll start right here. Before the interview, get, notice how it says get. We're going to highlight the little verbs, okay? So before the interview, get plenty of rest, make sure to eat a nutritious meal, and allowing extra time to get to the destination. So notice here how the words get and make, they're just going to be your basic verb, right? So we don't need to say to allow, allows, allowing. We just want to stick with the basic verb, just like get and make are. Again, guys, this is our third example of parallel structure. We need to make sure that our verbs and our words are aligned. And like this sentence here gives you the answer. It's built right within. So read the full sentence, not just the word it has itself. We've got another section here about an influential sports figure. So we have Holcomb Rucker. So when Holcomb Rucker blew the first whistle, paragraph 2, successful basketball can go in either direction. And paragraph 3, not very many paragraphs, helping players to leave the playgrounds and continue their education. Okay. So we're going to start here with, by 1965, the Rucker as a program had come to be called, has expanded to youth, college, and professional divisions. So one thing that you can actually do is we have this little appositive here. Sometimes if you just eliminate the appositive, it will kind of help you. We have the Rucker, which is the subject, and then has expanded is going to be your verb, your helping verb and your verb. Okay, so we could say by 1965, the Rucker has expanded. It's saying 1965, guys. That was like over 50 years ago. And has, we don't want to say has expanded, right? We would say maybe like had expanded. So A is not the answer. Will have expanded? No, it was 50 years ago. We have to stick with our past tense. Oh, there's our had expanded. And then D is just expanded. Okay, so we want to make sure we're consistent. I just erased this, but look at here how it said had come. Parallel structure. So we want to have had expanded. Had come, had expanded. So it looks like number 20 here, we're looking just at the commas. I would say if there's anything that you're going to focus on, you want to make sure it's going to be commas, that you know where commas go in parallel structure. Okay, so let's look at it. So it says, as the Rucker continued to thrive, its reputation grew, and in 1974, New York City renamed its home. Okay, so we have two complete sentences here. So we have here, the Rucker continued to thrive, and then we have its reputation grew. As the Rucker continued to thrive, its reputation grew. So this is our first sentence right here. And then our second sentence, that I'm getting a little sloppy here. In 1974, the New York City renamed its home. So we have two complete sentences. Both have a subject, both have a verb, and both have a complete thought. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we combine the two sentences correctly so that it's not a run-on. So A has the comma after grew and after and. Guys, they're going comma crazy here. And B here is actually a run-on. Not a good idea. C, the comma is after and we don't do the comma after and. We want to do our comma before and so if you're familiar with commas, it would be a comma fanboys. Okay, that's just two ways to connect two sentences together with a comma and then for and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Any of those words. Great way to combine two sentences together to prevent run-on sentences or comma splices. Okay, 21. The writer is considering whether or not to add the following sentence to the start of paragraph 2. Okay, so here we've got paragraph 2. Let's kind of review paragraph 2 a little bit. So, successful basketball can go in either direction, emphasizing interdependent team play or individual brilliance, depending upon how successful is understood. Okay, so the paragraph, or the sentence right here, athletic contests have two basic forms. Matches between highly coordinated teams, example football, or lone individuals competing against each other, example boxing. Would this be an appropriate sentence to add to this point? So it says the two different forms, and then successful basketball can go in either direction, right? If you just had the paragraph just as is, and it said either direction, well, I think that this sentence before really adds as an effective introduction to this paragraph here. So we're going to say B and C would be a no. So is it summarizing previously discussed information? No. I mean, we didn't read paragraph 1, but no, I mean, it's basically developing it into what's going on in this paragraph 2. So the answer is B. Okay, so we're looking at spelling here again. One of the 4 indicated words is misspelled. Which change in spelling corrects the error? Okay, so what I would do is don't even look over here. Okay, don't even look over here. Just look in A through B, A through D over here, and which one is spelled correctly. Okay, and so you can compare them, I guess, if you want. So innovation is correct right here. Administered, oh my gosh, look at how they spelled that. Id. So it's spelled correctly right here. Livelihood is spelled correctly right here. And institutions is spelled correctly right here. So you can look at them if you want. You don't necessarily have to. But the answer is C. So livelihood has an I instead of a Y. Okay, so here with number 23, it's looking as though should we add a transition word or should we not? So let's take a look at the sentence before it and then the sentence a little bit of what we have here. Okay, so there were no significant pressures or incentives to do so other than their own competitive desires. This environment allowed the players more freedom to reinvent how the game was played. Okay, so on the other hand is sort of switching up how we do things, right? So it's not really switching how to do things, right? Nevertheless, again, is sort of switching things, or like combining it a little bit. That's a bad definition, Michelle. Similarly, guys, transitions are so important, but this case actually is effective without the transitional phrase. Okay, so here we have, should we change this into one of these other things to see which one is more precise and the best worded? Okay, so let's start right here. Beginning in the 1960s, such moments of individual brilliance grew enormously in frequency. That sounds awkward. Enormously in frequency and at the highest levels of play as well-known professional stars played in the Rucker. Okay, so that is very awkward with enormously in frequency. Okay, so B is such moments of individual brilliance became increasingly common and exemplified at the highest levels of play. Ooh, look at those words, increasingly common and exemplified. Ooh, those are really, really good words. Okay, let's look at C. Such moments of individual brilliance happened repeatedly in the demonstration of, I mean, it has good words, but is it really like a demonstration or maybe, which is better? Demonstration or exemplified? I think exemplified. Okay, or D, such moments of individual brilliance were occurring much more often and, okay, so B really is the most precise and it's really maintaining the tone of the rest of the paragraph and the rest of the essay. Okay, so this one here, we will have to look back at the essay itself, but it says choose the best sentence to add to the end of paragraph 3. So let's take a look at paragraph 3 and see what would be the best ending, okay? So it says, helping players to leave the playgrounds and continue their educations, not changing basketball, was what had motivated Holcomb Rucker. He started his program to give young people something to do outside of school. He monitors how players did in school, and he sent hundreds on to prep schools and to college. He himself provided a model, obtaining a high school equivalency diploma. Whoa, you guys, he got his GED or his HiSET, probably his GED because that was the only thing available back then. That is exciting. Okay, an undergraduate degree and a position as a junior high school English teacher while running his program. For Rucker, running his program, including enlarging its size and scope, was always a means to achieve his educational goals for players. Okay, so really this is all about education, right? So which of these sentences here is the best way to end the paragraph, to end the essay? Okay, we're kind of looking for a conclusion of the passage's main ideas, okay? So, A, yet it had been the unintended changes in basketball itself that have done the most to expand educational opportunities for the players, as schools have embraced the individual virtuosity first brought to organized basketball by the Rucker. Okay, so that's a really, really good sentence there. Perhaps year-round basketball did not begin entirely with Holcomb Rucker in the summers. Okay, guys, we're talking about education. We're not talking about who invented or who started this, right? The Rucker still continues today with its outdoor displays of individual virtuosity presented on the removable wooden court. Guys, we're talking about education. In addition to the city park, there's also a New York public school, the Holcomb Rucker School of Community Research, named for him. Well, yeah, I mean, it's talking a little bit about education, sort of, like this place, community for research and the public school. But really, A is the answer here because it provides basically an effective conclusion to the passage's main idea, to the whole passage's main idea. So this was actually the HiSET Free Practice Test 7 that I followed along. However, if you're taking the GED, this is totally going to prepare you. Guys, we did it! We made it through the end of this test. You should be so proud of yourself. Comment below and tell me that you stayed until the end of the video. I am so proud of you, and you should honestly be so proud of yourself too, because you are working hard. You are going to pass this test. I know you are. Just believe in yourself, okay? It takes a lot of confidence to pass this test. You've just got to believe in yourself. Do remember, though, that this is only part of the test. There's also an essay that is with the test. And if you're taking the GED, there's the reading portion that is also with this test. So make sure that you practice those things as well. Believe in yourself. I believe in you. You have a beautiful day and just go do amazing things. I know you will. Peace, guys.